r/ask Reddit. What was the dumbest thing a teacher has ever said to you? I marked you down because spectators is not a word. I had to go to the library and grab a dictionary to get my marks back. This was in my senior year of high school. Obviously it's a word. A spectator is a potato that needs glasses. They have lots of eyes, you know. Similar to mine. My German English teacher insisted that siblings is not a word. Kept telling me there is no English word for the German equivalent, Geschwister. My German English teacher made so many mistakes. She wasn't even a second language English speaker. Far too often did I have to correct the handout with the corrections on it. You don't look sick, my teacher to me when I had missed a few days of school due to my epilepsy. Well, you don't look skinny. See how that was rude? And I probably should have kept that to myself? Jeff Dye. I'm using this shit on my mother-in-law. Thanks. You got that question wrong because we haven't learned that as a class yet, even though it was ducking right. That feels like a video game where you broke through a part of the world, and the game is confused and doesn't react properly, like you're not supposed to be in this part of the world yet. NPC teacher just stands there silently waiting for their trigger somewhere else in the game. The sun is not a star. A sun is a sun. A star is a star. The whole class laughs at me because they think the sun is not a star. You should have gone to the library to pick up a basic astronomy book to prove them wrong. They sound like they would just laugh at the book for being wrong. 2. Similar story here. My teacher once showed our class a picture of the Milky Way, pointed at the light in the center and said this is the sun. She also thought that Pluto was a, and I quote, dumb planet, like WTF. Science class. Going over group projects. Teacher, what did your volume measure out to? Me. 3.0 ml. Teacher, angry I told everyone to use decimal places. How hard is it to do what I tell you? Me. But I did. The measurement just happened to be exactly 3.0 ml. Teacher, I don't believe you. There is only a 1 in 10 chance of that happening. Me. But, it's a 1 in 10 chance of being any decimal. I had a teacher get pissed at me for using the fine adjustment knob on a bench power supply while trying to derive Ohm's law in a lab. He could have said something like the math might be clearer if you don't use exact values, but instead he just said don't worry about exact values. I didn't worry about exact values because I didn't fight with the course knob to get them. My group was done early and he still criticized me for wasting time on the fine adjustment knob. When I was in 3rd grade, my teacher told me to pick a book and write a book report on it. I chose Amber Brown Goes Forth, a book about a girl going into 4th grade. I would have gotten 100% on the report, but my teacher docked 1 point every time I used the title of the book because fourth is not the correct spelling of the term fourth, and refused to discuss the matter when I tried to explain that it was a play on words. The mere fact that the book exists wasn't enough. Sounds like the person who, after you correct it, would dock you for not getting the title of the book correct. In grade school, I wrote a short story where aliens were attacking a city and one blew up a cop car. The protagonist runs over and asks the officer if he's okay, to which the officer responded, don't worry, insurance'll cover it. My computer teacher said that was grammatically incorrect, and I countered that it was quoting someone speaking and was to emphasize the juxtaposition of the cop's inappropriately laid-back attitude with the seriousness of the situation. I got my English teacher involved, and she backed me up. 99% of the matter in the universe is oxygen. He meant it, defended it, and continued to expect that answer on tests years later. High school science teacher. Not even the air we typically breathe is 99% oxygen. My geography teacher told the class Djibouti was pronounced Dubai. This is my favorite one. I have 2 scenarios that I will never forget, and they both involved English teachers in middle school. In 6th grade, we were writing a short story. I wanted to write a story of a girl traveling from New Jersey to Arizona, because I had just done that. Anyway, I write the story and say that the drive was about 2,000 miles. My teacher proofreads it and tells me that I need to correct the mileage because she didn't think there were even 2,000 miles in the world. Oh, okay. 7th or 8th grade. Had to write a short story on the wolves that we had been tracking via some website. I wrote how my wolf met another and fell in love. Teacher proofreads and tells me to fix it because animals don't have feelings. She then proceeded to lecture the class on this matter as well. Clearly, this teacher has never seen Twilight. Let's be inaccurate and crush their creativity from the start. Doesn't that just sound like a smashing time? Sorry 8-year-old Tanman 1975. You got the test question. What is an example of a liquid? Wrong. What's wrong with lava? It doesn't fit in a cup. Give an example of a liquid. Yes. Bobby. Water. How much? A tablespoon? Very good. Anyone else? Timmy? Water. How much? A gallon. Nope. Sorry. That doesn't fit in a cup. I said put those papers in ABC order, not alphabetical order. How do these people become teachers? Teacher. No, that is wrong. Negative numbers don't exist. Me. But 2 is more than 1, so it becomes less than 0. Teacher. There is nothing less than 0. This equation can't be solved. I guess we have to change the books now, folks. How old were you when this happened? Negative numbers are crazy important, like middle school on. Did S. He just skipped that half of the curriculum? Yeah, if you're in high school and don't understand negative numbers, then absolutely nothing in math will make sense. My 7th grade history teacher told me that Pearl Harbor was in Japan. No wonder it got attacked so easily. My high school AP literature teacher told us she knew what being poor was like because she had to drive through the poor part of town to get to work every day in a Lexus her husband bought her. Side story but still relevant. Present French president said he knew what being poor was because he had to live with 1,000 euros per month when he was a teenager. That's about minimal wage for a full-time worker nowadays. Double that back then. 9th grade English. Getting back a test on the book Great Expectations. Me. On the question of who, in our opinion, is the biggest loser in the book. Why did I get the entire question wrong? Teacher. Because you said it, Pip. Me. He was. And I explained it in my answer, referring to the book to support my opinion. Teacher. Your opinion was wrong. Me. I learned in the 1st grade that opinions aren't right or wrong. Teacher. If I disagree, your opinion is wrong. That question was worth 10 points. I was the only person in that class to get 0 points for that question. Everyone else got at least 5 points. The lesson learned was that she was a beach. And that yes, teachers don't like all their students, and essay questions are a great way for a teacher to let the ones they like slide and punish those they dislike. A lot of us were freaking out in chem class after our mid-semester marks were posted since they were lower than what we were used to. My chemistry teacher's way of calming us down was to inform us that she had failed chemistry in high school and it wasn't a big deal. She was a teacher who was originally meant to teach bio but somehow got stuck teaching chem. She had the same knowledge of chemistry that we did. She would teach a lesson at the beginning of class, realize halfway through she was teaching it wrong because her answers didn't match up with the answers in her textbook. Go to her desk to figure out where she was messing up while we talked among ourselves about how ducked we were. Announced to the class, okay, erase everything I taught you from your mind. I figured IT out and start all over again with the lesson. The entire semester was a clusterfuck. She also let us know that she didn't understand fractions because she was gone on an extended vacation a couple of weeks of elementary school where it was introduced taught, and after falling behind she never really caught up, grasped it. I mean, WTF. How does one obtain a bachelor's degree without understanding basic math? Her excuse for not knowing fractions is pretty much the same as my excuse for not knowing how to do a handstand. But one of these is a slightly more important life skill. To be fair, I can also never remember which is the numerator and which is the denominator in fractions, but I'll blame that on not taking any middle school math. The denominator has a fetish for being degraded, so he stays on the bottom. Not a teacher, but a guidance counselor, laughed in my face and told me I shouldn't bother applying to any of the colleges I applied to because it was a stretch to think I'd be accepted. A few months later, I got 6 acceptance letters. I applied to 6 schools, and I attended my first choice on almost a full ride. Every year around the time acceptance letters come out, I email her about what I am doing. moved all over the country and have worked at a bunch of really great companies, etc. Just to remind her how horrible her advice was. Elementary school. We were making a paper clock for some dumb reason. Teacher told us to trace a circle from a coffee can and then poke a hole in the middle of the circle. I ask, how do we find the center of the circle? It's right there in the middle. She answers, I wanted my paper clock to be built correctly, so I really felt it was important to know how to find the true center. I explained as much. Poke a hole in the middle of the circle. Now she was yelling, how do I know it's the exact center? I asked, poke a hole in the middle of the circle. Poke a hole in the middle of the circle. Poke a hole in the middle of the circle. She went crazy and kept yelling that at me until I poked a hole that was certainly not in the center of the circle. How do you find the center of a circle? Inquiring minds need to know. I have a few stories myself. In 3rd grade, my friend wrote a poem and used Denmark as one of the words. Our teacher took off points for that because, and I quote, Denmark is not a word. In 4th grade, my teacher once shared her enlightening advice on what to do if someone is chasing you. Paraphrase, if someone is chasing you, do not run, because they will stop chasing you if you aren't running. They will stop and ask, why aren't you running? Even 10-year-old me saw that teacher was a ducking idiot the moment she said that. 3. In 11th grade, my history teacher once said England, Britain, and the UK are the same thing. I corrected her and pointed out that they are not the same thing. England is the kingdom, Britain in England, Wales, and Scotland, and the UK is Britain and Northern Ireland. I got sent out of the class for that one. If you wanna talk, then shut up. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. We were coming up with words that began with a certain letter, and for E, I suggested escargot. I was told off for making things up. Haven't you heard? France and the French aren't real. 5th grade assignment. Create a headline announcing World War I had begun. I write, Great War begins. Teacher, you didn't call it World War I. Me. Why would they know it was the First World War if they don't know there will be another World War? Teacher, the assignment is to announce World War I has started, so you need to say it's World War I. Elementary school teacher told us it was impossible to compress air. For proof she clapped her hands and said, see, it is impossible to compress air. I brought in a can of compressed air the next day. When I was 8 years old, there was an anti-bullying seminar at our school whose main thrust was always tell a teacher instead of resorting to violence on your own. Well, I took the seminar to heart, and what do you know, a day or two later I got sucker punched in the nose, instead of doing what I would normally do, and beat the hell out of the kid. I remembered the seminar and went to tell a teacher, so I run up to her with watery eyes and blood coming out of my nose and try to get her attention, but she's talking to her parent or some other adult and she ignores me. My bus is coming, so I tap her on the arm to get her to hurry up and pay attention to me. She glares angrily at me and says never to interrupt adults when they are talking, then sends me to detention. I missed my bus. The principal lectured me on my rudeness, and even after I told them why I was interrupting her in the first place, they couldn't have given less of a shit. So I sat there in the office crying and wiping blood off my face till my dad could get off work to come and get me at 5 p.m. I was too ashamed to tell him the real reason I had missed the bus, and probably the principal and teacher were too. So they said nothing and neither did I. In retrospect, if my dad had known the real reason, he'd probably have torn them all a new one. But instead I just went home an hour and a half late and the kid that sucker punched me basically won. After that, I always retaliated with double force. Stupid ducking teacher. I really wanted this story to end with a parent raising hell for a good reason, but that didn't happen and I am so sorry. There are no trees in Japan. Thing I am still salty about 20 years later. In English class we had to write a one-page report about an animal. My teacher knocked down my grade something like 20 or 30 points out of 100 because she said an agouti was not a real animal and the report was supposed to be about a real animal, not a pretend or imaginary one. She was one of those really old school teachers who insisted you look shit up in the dictionary. I went and got the dictionary and looked up agouti. There was a picture of an agouti. I showed it to her and she just smiled tightly at me. No apology. No fixing my grade. No admittance that she was wrong. Nothing. Duck you, Mrs. O'Donnell. That's to cure a jellyfish sting. You need to pee on the jellyfish that stung you. That's not how it works. Peeing on a jellyfish simply discourages it from stinging people in the future because most of them don't like it. My 6th grade health teacher told my entire class that if you ever saw a girl with peach fuzz on her face, it meant she was bulimic. Sir, I am a mammal. She couldn't remember if microwave ovens ran on fusion or fission, but either way, we should take care not to stand too close to it. Now everyone, I know it's a sad day, and we're all coming to terms with what has happened, but it is a normal day. What I want you to do for me is to draw a picture of what you think the car crash would have looked like in as much detail as you can. The 1st of September, 1997, the day after the death of Lady Diana. We were 6 years old. Regardless of your age, that is morbid and inappropriate as hell. Prof. Write a 6-page paper telling why X should or should not be legal. Cite at least 3 sources. Me. Write 6-page paper telling why X should be legal. Citing at least 3 sources. Prof. I subtracted points because you made it sound political. Me. How can I argue the legality of something without making it political? That doesn't even make sense. Prof. The thing isn't legal and you are arguing why it should be. Me. That was the assignment. Prof. I don't agree with what you said. Me. We will see what the dean thinks. I am not failing this class because your opinion differs from mine. My grade was adjusted after the dean had someone else grade it. I had a science teacher who was pretty new and not so good. I went up to her after class one day because I was struggling with something. She spent a good amount of time with me explaining it and I finally felt like I got it. Fast forward a few days and we had the test. I did exactly what we had talked about and felt pretty good about it. When we got the test back, I had gotten all of those questions wrong. After class I went up to her and tried to talk to her about it and showed her the notes that had some of her own handwriting in it from when I asked her questions. She just looked at me and said, "You can't always believe what you hear." I was so confused and also like 15, so I didn't say anything or do anything about it, but I still think about it all the time. While attending a university class on philosophical ethics, I came across someone profoundly ignorant. The professor was devoutly Catholic, and one day during a segment on St. Augustine, her favorite, a student asked her to explain the concept of divine mystery, to which she responded, "God is a mystery. Humanity is incapable of comprehending the divine, just like we can never truly understand photosynthesis." Well, I thought I had a pretty good understanding of photosynthesis and began to explain. So she decided to revise her statement to, "We can never truly understand how a baby is born." Dumbfounded, I could only recommend that she accompany me to my freshman biology class. It doesn't matter what's going on in your personal life, you should be able to do history homework. Right after I told him my mom had 2 months to live, so I wouldn't be paying much attention to school. Mine didn't know how to spell fifth. She used fifth. When we corrected her, she had to check the dictionary. A nuclear plant doesn't need water to operate. All plants need water, even cacti. 12th grade Spanish. My teacher decided that I had been mispronouncing my last name for my whole life. Refused to listen to me explaining the origin. Mispronounced my name for the next month. Duck you. Prof Del, you were a dong. The one that sticks out to me was my 6th grade teacher, a fair-skinned white woman with chestnut brown hair, insisting repeatedly that skin color is the one and only factor that determines hair color. I'm black, fairly light-skinned, but certainly not fair or pale, with blonde brown hair, and there were several white Hispanic Asian children in the class with pale skin and black or dark brown hair, and tan-skinned white kids with super blonde hair. This drove her mad during a Christmas pageant where we all had to bobby pin a Christmas decoration to our hair. At the time, only black and blonde bobby pins existed, and she kept getting very confused as to why half of the hair decorations looked so bad. It's because she was putting black bobby pins in fair-haired kids' hair because they were darker skinned, and blonde bobby pins on dark-haired kids' hair because they were pale-skinned. It just didn't occur to her that your hair color is your hair color, regardless of your race or skin tone. She wasn't even a particularly racist woman, just so massively stupid that she could not look at blonde hair on a tan or medium-skinned person and think, yep, blonde, because her wrong theory about hair color was so ingrained. She was a very poor teacher in several other regards, including being just a wild a-hole. But I don't think I'll ever forget her taking 10 minutes staring at my head in livid frustration, unable to figure out what was wrong when she was sticking pitch black bobby pins into my sandy colored hair. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.